All right, I'd like to bring this evening's meeting of the Middleton Select Board to order this Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, and remind everyone that, as in all cases, at all times, this meeting is being recorded, both audio and visual. To start off, we'll go with the first item of business, which is just that, item business. Mr. Solzback.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have before you tonight warrant number 2506 dated September 19th, 2024. Some fairly unremarkable expenses, but we'll run through a few of the items here. On the payroll side of things, totaling in at $850,742. You see some overtime for MELD and the fire department and the police department, as well as public works. On the bills payable side of things, totaling in at $1,285,874. About $1,700 for waste disposal at the DPW, as well as $8,600 for street resurfacing and $7,300 for tree removal. You'll also see lower down $100,828 expense for the purchase of power through MELD. On the school side of things, some of the bigger hits here: $227,724 for their health insurance premiums, and under the treasurer line, $252,795 for Essex Tech, for our payment for them for this quarter. I was almost slip up and say Essex Aggie because it's so burned into my brain, but Essex Tech. Additionally, you have facilities project warrant FP 44 totaling at $126,431. $110,000 of that, give or take, is project design, with just over $14,000 for the construction side of things. So it was a little slow in that cycle, but anybody who's driven by recently can see that they are really moving. So I anticipate to see that construction figure tally a little higher coming into your next warrant. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll take a motion to accept the warrant 2506 and the facilities project 44.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. Passed unanimously. Okay, and next we have received the minutes for the open session from September 3rd, as well as executive session September 3rd, 2024. Any discussion or questions on those? Okay, I'll take a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the open session minutes for September 3rd, as well as the executive session minutes for September 3rd as written.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Passed unanimously. Next will be the town administrator's updates and reports. If you would, Justin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few updates around town. The Kuchar Way stormwater basin that we had discussed at a meeting maybe 2 months ago has officially been cleaned out earlier this month, and the work was inspected by Williams and Sparagis. We expect an update. If you recall, there was a pipe out in the woods, some type of mystery pipe, and we had some engineering done on that by Conoco. We expect to get that back by the end of the month. So the important piece there is, in order to address the issue, we need to figure out what, from an engineering perspective, what it's going to cost, and then an estimate for construction costs. The hope is we have a little bit of ARPA left that we can draw down by the end of this year. So that's what we're trying to link up here. Upon inspection, it's been determined that the roof, specifically the rubber membrane at 195 North Main Street, was significantly damaged in the fire. The duration of the fire wasn't terribly long, and our team did a good job of getting it out pretty quickly, but that's a lot of heat building up in the bays that is not typical. So they did a full inspection. It is covered under insurance, but that means it's a whole additional layer of scope of work that they're going to have to go through, remove the 2 layers that are currently on there. It's not uncommon to just lay a new layer on top of an old one, but you don't want to put a 3rd one on top of that. And they did identify some hot materials, specifically asbestos, between the 2 layers. So we have to do remediation next week, and then they'll really be getting into the roof in the 2 weeks after. I did email the board with an update today touching on that. Additionally, we were targeting mid-October to late November to get out of the modular offices and back inside the building. Now we're looking like potentially mid-November with the addition of that more comprehensive roof repair. So we're keeping a very close eye on that, and we'll make sure we communicate to the public as things move along. Decking on the Peabody Street Bridge is complete, and we expect full project completion by Columbus Day. It's been a long time coming. Maple Street was milled overnight last night, with paving to occur over the weekend, also into the evening. So once again, that's part of the improvements that have been done as part of the bottleneck reduction grant down on Central Street. That project is ongoing. We've heard from some folks in the community kind of wondering where that project is at, or when it's going to wrap up. It's not done yet. We're not at the end of construction season. We got a very narrow construction season in New England, and we're trying to make the most of it, but we have a lot going on in town right now. So it'll be done hopefully in the next couple weeks and striped out. And then the Boston Street sidewalk project is underway, and we expect that to last about 6 weeks, depending on weather. That's always a factor. But that's moving along as well. So it's been a huge summer from an infrastructure perspective. I know that for some folks, if it's something that's in your neighborhood specifically, that's something that's very meaningful to you, and something you can be passionate about. But we always ask for the full understanding that we have a whole town that we're trying to work on with limited time and limited financial resources to do it. And with that in mind, we've done a ton this summer. And I want to underline, as always, it's not me and Jackie out there with shovels doing it. It's our DPW team under the direction of Paul Goodwin, who has been an absolute all-star throughout this summer. He has not said no to a single thing we've asked, and we've gotten a lot done because of it. So thank you to him and his team and everyone else that supports us. We are coming up on the 1 year mark since establishing the Select Board and Town Administrative Goals. It was in October of last year. Hard to believe it's been a year. So I just want to put that fresh in your mind. I'm going to be reviewing those goals between now and your next meeting, highlighting some of the progress that we've made on some of those items, highlighting other areas where maybe there were some deficiencies, and then also putting forth some recommendations for new things to add to our list going into the next year. So if you could just in the back of your mind give some thought to some things that you'd like to see, or things that maybe you felt fell by the wayside, and I'd be happy to incorporate those, but we'll dig into that more at your next meeting. We had some first round interviews for the planner role last week. It was very productive. There's a second round that will be taking place at the start of next week, and we'll be reaching out to candidates shortly about that. The 50,000 earmark for a study of Middleton Square has officially received the green light. That was an earmark that our team had put in, and thank you to Jackie for going through and doing the paperwork for that piece. So we did hear that it's the state's Executive Office for Administration and Finance that will be putting those funds out. We expect to see them sometime in the fall. And the hope and vision for that amount of money is to take a hard look at the next step. So we're always trying to look far down the road. Very busy working on what's in front of us, but we don't want to wait until one project ends to say, all right, what are we going to do next? And so the intent of this is, if the Boston Street 114 intersection gets addressed as part of the Phil Bridge development, and if we land that $2 million or so Housing Works grant, once that's complete, what are we doing after that? And that's where this $50,000 would help us study and try to develop a plan to address that next step as we march our way down 114 over the next few years. I know sometimes it's, you want to just snap your fingers and do it, but that's not the way this business works. And so we're linking funds with needs, and piece by piece we'll get there. I just wanted to note that I'll be in Pittsburgh at the beginning of next week for the annual ICMA meeting. As always, I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude that this board and that this community continually supports our professional development, the staff in general, and me in particular, so thank you for that. And we still have some vacancies on our boards and committees. If you could just check the town website if you're interested in serving the community in any way. And Assistant Town Administrator Bresnahan has a couple notes on that in terms of the vacancies.
Yep, just so that the public and the board are aware of the vacancies that remain open. We do have a potential appointment tonight for the Cultural Council. It's a renewal, but outside of that, these are the positions that we are still seeking residents interested in serving. A 1-year term for the Zoning Board of Appeals as an alternate. 1 seat for a 3-year term on the Cultural Council. 2 seats for alternate positions for 1-year terms on the Industrial and Commercial Design Review Committee, or the ICDRC. 1 seat for a 1-year term on the MBTA Advisory Board. and 1 seat for a 1-year term as an alternate for the planning board, and then 1 seat for a 3-year term on the recreation committee. And all of those are available on our website. More information about their respective boards and committees are available. But as I had mentioned, if you go through with the appointment tonight on the Cultural Council, these will be the remaining appointments available to those that are interested.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
And that is everything at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is a part of the night where, sorry, go ahead, sir.
With the Villbridge project, what's their next steps? What's their timeline?
So there's a 20-day review period from the time that it was submitted to the clerk's office. We haven't hit that yet if somebody wanted to appeal the decision. So we're waiting to get through there. And then in terms of the intent for their construction, I've heard that they'd like to start moving things around in the spring. But I haven't had a definitive answer yet.
Any other questions? Okay, so move next is the part of the meeting where we accept the public comment. And I don't believe we have anyone here tonight signaling that they wish to make a public comment. So I'll make a quick one. I just wanted to touch and echo your sentiment on the DPW and Superintendent Paul Goodwin, as well as Travis, as well as all the staff, that they truly are the caretakers of the town. As we can see coming up, there's even more things that are going to be Middleton's literally opened up for, that they're responsible to oversee. And one other quick mention is the return of a police officer that suffered a serious injury almost a year and a half ago while performing a direct rescue in town. And just wanted to point out that he finally got the medical clearance to return. It's been about a month now since he's been back, but just wanted to recognize his dedication and hard work in wanting to get back and his loyalty to the town. And you'll see him out there doing his job professionally, as he always does. Welcome back, Sergeant Michael Lacoste. So, just wanted to point that out. Next, you got a lot tonight, Justin. Next, there'll be an update on the Middleton Municipal Campus.
So just a brief project update. As I mentioned earlier, it's very visible that they've been busy. They're starting to chew away at that big grassy dirt pile in the middle, screening all of that, and they'll be redistributing it throughout the site. From a construction perspective, by design, the public safety facility is a little ahead of Town Hall, so closer to the road. The structure the folks are seeing is the public safety facility. Concrete block has gone up, the footings are in, foundations in, and they've seen steel starting to go vertical. And then we're expecting prefab wood trusses that will go across the roof are going to start rolling in probably in late September, early October. So they're moving really quick, also with the full understanding that winter is coming pretty quickly. Further to the back of the site is where the town hall building is, following a similar pattern but lagging a few weeks behind. So the footings are in, the foundation is in, and they have poured for the elevator pit and the vault. So they're moving along pretty well back there as well. At a certain point in the project, they're going to flip-flop in priority. They'll start throttling back the public safety facility and start moving forward on the town hall, with the goal of trying to finish them, somewhat at the same time. So they're doing a really good job. One thing I wanted to highlight is very close to the road, kind of near the construction trailer, there is a 2-story purple, like small-looking building, and a lot of people have kind of been wondering what that is. That is a mock-up for people that don't work in the industry, and so what they want to do is, before they start finishing the structures, and they want to be able to put out the finished materials and confirm how they go together, what they look like, and they do it on a smaller scale, because you don't want to wait until you're slapping this up on the public safety facility to decide that the components don't work, or visually it's ugly looking, or anything like that. And so that's what they're doing. That thing closest to the road is a mock-up. So right now they have drywall up, it's purple. Eventually they'll be putting the stone up there and other veneer, and it'll be interesting to kind of see. So if anybody's wondering. So they're very busy. We are directly on schedule, and we are slightly under budget. So it's a good place to be, and we'll keep pushing. And then item B on there, if I can just keep moving.
Sure.
So there's an amendment to the PCA 360 contract that was included in your packet. As highlighted in my communication to the board, PCA 360 had come forward to Jackie and I several months ago expressing a change to their contract, basically asking to add some scope, some things that they hadn't anticipated going to the project that ended up landing on their plate. So, for example, the Eagle incidental take, the security vendor, audiovisual vendor, communications tower, traffic engineering, the MELD generator, which we had brought up maybe 8 months ago now, EV charger grant and some changes that come with that. And so in total, they asked for about $58,000. It's reflective of about 2 months of additional work. And so in response to that, we had asked that, one, they itemize it so that we can really pull it out and see. The other piece is I had asked them to try to find it somewhere else in the budget, try to find efficiencies or cut it out of somewhere else, which they were successful in doing. And so ultimately that $58,520 is a wash. So with that in mind, I'm agreeable to it, but it's up to this board, obviously.
Absolutely.
Is it through efficiencies and under bids, or was something taken out?
It's a little bit of a mix of both. Some of it was areas of scope that they had assigned to other folks on the project that PCA 360 ended up doing themselves. So, you know, you're kind of sliding things around. I don't want to say it's a shell game, but for a budget that size, there are some areas where you think resources are going to go towards one thing, they end up going to another. And so the important part was I wanted to make sure we weren't just adding to the cost of the project, that we were kind of holding their feet to the fire. So they delivered, in my opinion.
Good job on that.
Good job.
Yeah, not
You
just-
don't ask, you don't receive,
Right.
right?
No.
So you need a vote to,
If you could, please.
so I'll make a motion to approve the change.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the change. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Passes unanimously. Anything,
Nothing else on those items.
Right.
Thank you.
so we'll move on to item number 4. I don't know which one of you wants to begin with this, on the accessory dwelling unit bylaw draft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's a couple items in your packet, and then I hand-delivered tonight a version without the markups, because track changes, in my opinion, is impossible to read and creates confusion. So in your packet tonight, there is an early version of an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU bylaw, as well as an advisory that we received from Mead, Tellerman, and Costa in relation to the Affordable Homes Act, was Bill H4977, something that this board has talked about at a recent meeting, and at that time we said more information would be coming. This is the more information. So what we're trying to better understand is, among the several elements of that piece of legislation, there was an allowance for ADUs by right in municipalities across the Commonwealth. And so what we were trying to take a hard look at is, how would that impact us here in Middleton? So far to date, that's involved a sit down with me, Ms. Bresnahan, Scott Fitzpatrick, and Jay Tallerman, our attorney, just trying to better understand timelines and boundaries. And the most important timeline that's highlighted right in the law is that this goes into effect, I believe, February 2nd. The timing is horrible, and a little bit frustrating for someone that works on the municipal side of things, because most towns have their annual town meetings in the spring, April or May, sometimes June. And so what that means is communities either have to run the risk of letting this go into effect without any bumpers up, or call a special if they weren't planning on having one, or adding this to a special if they were going to have one, to try to put some type of parameters in place. And so Attorney Tallerman did provide us with some bones from what other communities are looking to do, because we're all kind of in it together right now. And Scott Fitzpatrick, to his credit, did an excellent job of going through and trying to identify on an early level what are some things that would that exist in the legislation that would negatively impact Middleton if we didn't do anything. And so if you look at the draft, and I'm going to go off the unmarked version. There are elements in here that are called out in the law, and those are things that you don't really have to worry about. So there's already some things you can and can't do, and we ran through that in the meeting last time. In terms of square footage, in terms of setbacks, that is what it is. You're protected. We are very limited in terms of extra that we can do, and that's the kind of wait and see that we've been going through. We've been waiting to try to get some guidance from the state, because if you're overly restrictive, they're going to come slap you on the wrist. And we want to better understand where the line is so that we can pretty much walk right up to it in good faith. And so little things that aren't included, for example, would be like temporary short-term rentals. So if somebody wanted to build a little treehouse type dwelling in their backyard for like Airbnb or something like that, and you don't want that to be in your neighbor's backyard, right now that would be allowed by right. But it's something that we could put in a bylaw that would restrict if there was an appetite to restrict. So if it's okay with the board, I don't want to get into debating the merits of this tonight. I just wanted to provide it to be upfront, to kind of let people know what we're chewing on at this point in time, what we're giving thought to. At your next meeting, I'm going to bring a more complete draft. Attorney Tallerman will be with us to help answer some of those more granular questions, and Scott Fitzpatrick will be with us as well, because he's really the boots on the ground on that. And this will impact him the most in terms of having to chase this around when it comes around. In terms of bringing it forward this evening, it was more of a PSA on my part. I wanted to make sure that we got it out early to people, especially with zoning. It's easy for there to be a perception that people are trying to force something through or sneak something up on you. No sneaking here. This is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And if it's determined to be necessary, it'll go right through the process with the potential for a special in December. We had touched on that. Also in a recent meeting, we had floated out Tuesday, December 10th, on the off chance that we receive a MassWorks grant and there's an appetite to revote for the MBTA communities. I do want to highlight that December 10th date, there was a conflict with a board member, and it has been shifted to Thursday, December 12th. And we'll make sure that we communicate that. Once again, the big piece of that is whether or not we land the grant. And in our office anyway right now, we're keeping our eyes on several different tracks. One of them is no special town meeting. If we don't get a grant, if it's determined that there is no need to put some ADU bylaw in place, that's definitely one of them. It could be that we do get the grant, and we determine there's no need for the ADU bylaw. That's another option. Or it could be we don't get the grant, but you all determine that you do want to try to get additional protections in for the ADU bylaw. So sometimes the work we do is a little more clear. This one, we're running 3 scenarios and doing our best. So are there any questions with that in mind at this point in time?
I do actually have a question, Justin, and I'll tell you, it's every community that hasn't cast this vote that is scrambling the same way we are. But has Scott alluded to any increased volume of phone calls on permitting for these ADUs?
I haven't heard.
Because I've heard quite a few building inspectors are already being inundated with the phone calls. They want to
I'll ask
jump
him.
on this.
Yeah. And he'll be in at your next meeting too, so.
Okay. And the other thing too is in hopes, and I haven't heard whether this has potential or not, but because of the community's frustration with the signing and fast track on this ADU legislation, that we have to hope that they push this off. You know, and that February 2nd date doesn't become real. And the only way we're going to do that is to contact your senators, contact your representatives, contact your legislation. The more they hear from the public, the more chance we have of getting this postponed. Because this really should have been written a lot different.
And that's a valid point. You know, I genuinely believe that our partners on Beacon Hill have our best interests at heart. But I think sometimes the timelines that we're so accustomed to may not be as apparent to them. And I agree 100%. It'd be nice if it could be pushed back to give people an opportunity to not have to rush, and to let us kind of process this in our typical process.
Right.
Yeah, so,
But, given that it would be a zoning change and the timelines that we have to follow for a zoning change, we'd have to start that process fairly soon.
now,
Okay. So, to me, this is, we can't get to February 2nd, it go into effect, and we haven't put up whatever restrictions are permitted. It's like a few years ago, if you guys remember, we had the proposed, an adult entertainment district, and people said,
Yeah.
why are you doing that? We don't want that here. Well, the point was, if we had
You
the
need to
district
allocate.
where it was,
Correct.
we protected every other part of the town from having it. So I think, we have to go on the assumption that the February 2nd enforcement date is going to be real, and follow the path to take action to protect the town to the extent that we can prior to that. So, it'd be great if we start this process and it's okay, it's going to take effect July 1, and then we can just address it at the annual meeting. But we can't get to February 2nd without having acted on something.
The first step, though, is to see what actual restrictions we could.
Correct.
If we can't put substantial restrictions, I would not be in favor of having a special town meeting just to put a couple of inconsequential restrictions in. I would want to see something really that if we don't do this, this could come, and we want to, because other than that, I think it could wait till May, because we don't have to have any bylaw change when it takes effect. It's just, it goes by the state law and it goes by whatever that overrules what we currently have, but it's not like it's an emergency that it might appear to be. That's all. I think the special town meeting should really be reserved for true emergencies. I don't think just if something comes up and we say, oh, special town meeting. I'm not a believer in that.
Well, to the extent, at the next meeting, we should have a clear understanding from Jay.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's minor, inconsequential, I agree with you.
Right.
We may disagree on where the line is inconsequential and, but the concept, I agree with.
Yeah, because we have to flush out even just the examples of what,
Yeah.
restrictions could be, flush that out. Is that something that's worth more, it's more trouble than it's worth? kind
Right.
of a thing, Right. And I agree, I was gonna ask, what is the deadline, but call it February, and approach it like that.
yep, exactly. So with that deadline in mind, that would mean getting it before the planning board, or specifically the select board, referring it to the planning board for their meeting in October. And that would allow us to keep on the timeline. And like Costa mentioned, if we find we don't need it, great. If they push it back, but I'd hate to hope that we don't, I'd hate to hope that we don't, let me get this right in my head. I would hate to not do anything hoping we don't need it and then
Right.
turn out that we need it. So, yeah.
And then scramble, and we can't lose sight that next year is an election year, and the town clerk's office is gonna be
'Cause-
inundated. So we don't wanna add more to that office than what needs to be. I mean, if we end up holding this special because we need to hold it, then that's different.
Because it does feel to me that this isn't just a once and done thing. I think this is just a door to open
It
to all
is.
communities that, somewhere there's plans on the board that, the types of things that can, come about after this. This isn't just, okay, you can have ADUs and that's it. It's probably gonna be augmented in some way down the line. All right, any other questions on that?
I do not.
Okay, then we'll move on to number 5, it is, which is the, we see the letter to award Essex DeBusch the water infrastructure contract that will be installed in the area between DeBush and Essex, on Essex Street. I guess, Justin, you'll...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is one more thing on the pile of projects that the DPW is working on. So it's, there's a lot going on there. So last week I'd issued a notice of intent to award, making it clear to the contractor that they were the low bidder. It was a base bid plus a bid alternate B. The alternates were just the way that they were going to approach the project. It wasn't a change within the scope. And so it came in at $1,025,976.79 for N. Grenice and Sons, Inc. out of Salem. And we put the notice of intent to award out so they could start mobilizing, with the understanding that the select board needs to officially approve the contract. So my request this evening, where this is on budget and they're a qualified low bidder, if you could either authorize me or a member of your board to sign the contract, which is currently being put together by Weston and Sampson sometime in the next week.
I'll move to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract awarding the water main on Essex and the Bush project to Grenice and Sons.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right?
Aye. And opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Justin. Next, we have a request to accept a land acceptance, which has Pike Messenger's name attached to it. Pike Messenger land acceptance. It's in our packet, and my question is on this, on the picture I'm looking at the top of the diagram, where would that go? Over to the campus?
No,
Yes,
yeah.
eventually, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's the
Goes right up
idea
and
there,
over.
because it's
Yep.
cut off? Okay, thanks. Oh, thank you.
Michelle Cost.
Okay.
So ultimately, we had determined, and Jackie may have a couple items to weigh in on this as well, and I welcome her too, because her background is
Sure.
more adjacent to this than my own. But Mr. Messenger had reached out to me. I actually hadn't had a chance to meet him, but his name had come up several times over. And so he met me in the office and let me know that he had an intent to carve out this strip of land off his parcel, not an easement, but the actual land. Mr. Garber and I had talked about this a little bit as well. And so we're going a little out of order accidentally. This was on the agenda for the planning board last week for an A&R, but they were unable to get quorum. I kept it on the agenda, hopefully with the intent that the board would accept the gift of this land as outlined by Attorney Tallerman in your packet, contingent upon the approval of an A&R from the planning board in an upcoming meeting. Ultimately, for folks watching at home that are unable to see this, it is a parcel of land on 32 Boston Street that would allow an easement to run along the edge of the property to connect through to walking trails that were established as part of the Blue Haven project. Those trails eventually make their way over to the municipal campus, so it's actually a pretty important connection for a really impressive trail system in Middleton. So as I expressed to Mr. Messenger at the time in my office, and I will reiterate now, on behalf of the town, his generosity is really appreciated. I mean, that's just such a tremendous asset for Middleton, so thank you.
Do you think, in appreciation, would we consider, with his permission, maybe naming that trail for Pike,
Can I-
which goes behind Blue Haven into...
Conservation Commission's ability to name.
So Jackie is pointing out, and I'm sure you could express this, but it would actually, a piece I left out is we'd be accepting the gift, but it would actually be going to the Conservation Commission. And so technically, the Conservation Commission would be the ones to dole out naming rights, but I think a recommendation as such
Or maybe a recommendation.
from the select board
Right.
would carry some weight.
Right, not just that part, but the entire trail from Boston Street to the new facilities project, the whole trail be named.
I think
In honor of Pike.
that'd be fitting.
I think we
Not just
all
you-
agree with that.
Yeah, not just due to the donation of this piece of land, but just in
Just-
recognition
A
of
lot of what he's, yeah, what
his
he's
lifelong commitment
Yep.
to the town of Middleton.
done. Pending Pike's approval, of course.
Right.
Yes.
I have a draft motion, if that's acceptable. It's
Fire
just
it
a
off.
little technical, so I
Okay.
just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So you'd be accepting this donation of land from Pike Messenger, and it would be based on the plan once approved by the Essex Registry, once filed with the Essex Registry of Deeds, for the property off of Boston Street into the care and custody of the Conservation Commission for conservation purposes. Want me to do it again?
No?
Okay. A lot of technical elements there.
Give a vote, really, a motion on that?
I'll move that motion.
All right, and a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No, passes unanimous.
So you'll relay our wish to the Conservation Commission and talk to Pike about it?
Yep, we'll pass it along.
Thank you.
And maybe if he's up for it, bring him out to a future meeting or something like that.
Okay, great.
Very
Be
good.
nice to do like something,
Yeah.
Little pomp.
little circumstance.
Yep, I agree. That's great. That's good news. That's fun. Okay, moving on. Item number 7 is going to be 2 items for requesting cemetery regulation waivers. The first one is A, which is Cocciardi, Lot F, 222. The specific request is for an oversized bench. And do we have anyone here that wants to discuss and bring that up and let us know who you are and maybe a little more detail on the request?
I live at 10 Bellevue Ave. Thank you for entertaining this. My wife passed away in May, so I was very thankful to get a lot there. And we're putting, it's a combination, it's a smaller thing. It's like a bench and a monument all together. And the monument company I talked with, I told them we're limited to 2.5 feet. And I did look around. Actually, I have a picture here of someone that's 15 or 20 feet away from me that has a lovely 3-foot bench. And I was there, a number of other ones as well. It'll still be on the lot, of course. And I'm not planning on putting anything funky. It was just, going to be that. And so again, I respectfully would ask if we could have that variant or whatever is needed to be able to get the permit. Again, it's going to be 3 feet. It won't be unsightly because there are other ones like that there as well.
Any questions for Mr.
I
Cocciardi?
just have a general question, just because I don't know a lot
Sure.
about this. So, a bench is allowed by right, and this is just the size of the bench?
Correct. So
Okay.
a bench is allowed by right, and I do have the section pulled up, Jeff, for your exact question. So if you are looking at the cemetery regs that were in your packet, if you go to section 378-11 memorial structures, we're looking at a waiver for section D monument dimensions. And I believe, I'm sorry, it was a 4 grave lot you said you purchased, or
Oh,
2?
no, just the one grave lot.
Oh, 1 grave lot, sorry.
Because it's going to be.
Mr. Cocciardi.
Thank you. Oh,
Yes,
Peter is
it's
fine,
a
Jackie.
it's a single grave lot, so the lot size is 3.5 by 10 feet. So typically the monument is restricted to only being 2 feet 6 inches long. So this is a roughly 6-inch wider than allowed by the current regulation, and so it'd be a waiver of our cemetery regulations.
Okay.
And the reason we only got the one lot, my wife's been cremated, I'm going to be cremated as well. It's just the 2 of us, so it didn't make sense.
It'll be cozy.
Exactly. Well, I'm also hoping, I'm so thankful that we're able to, I didn't realize they still had them because unfortunately it was kind of quick when she passed. I am so blessed that I got a lot in town. And so this way there'll be other lots for other people because I thought about getting others and this would be fine for us.
All right. No other further questions?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the request.
I'll
Second.
second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any more discussion?
I do
All-
not.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
Thank you very much,
Oh, you're very
everybody. Have a
welcome,
great
Mr.
night.
We'll get you
Bye,
something by
Mr.
the end of the week in
Cocciardi.
writing, okay?
I'm sorry.
We'll get you something by the end of the week in
Oh, no
writing.
problem. Just give me a buzz and whatever. That's
Absolutely.
wonderful. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
everybody.
You're welcome. And on the same agenda item, same topic, this one is Fitzpatrick Vosi, if I'm pronouncing that right. It's lot 2122, and again, the request specifically for an oversized bench.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Deb Michelson. I'm here on behalf of the Fitzpatrick and Vosi family, and we're looking to have a bench, cement bench placed. And I believe that it's only 3 inches over the allotted size. That's my understanding.
Double check. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
So the 4 grave lot sizes are 7 feet by 20, and the requested size is 4 by 8.
Oh, okay, 8 inches.
So it's roughly, sorry, I'm looking at two different sheets at the same time. So the request is, it's a 7-foot by 20-foot lot with a 4-foot by 8-foot monument. Got it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So it's 4 by, and what is the,
It's
by
not,
right size?
it's not
Jackie?
4 by 8 feet.
The legs are, oh, it's 4 inches by, I apologize.
I believe it's
34 inches.
yes.
The legs are 4 inches by 8 inches, and then it's 34 inches long.
And the bench is 4 feet.
The bench is, I
The
believe,
top
4
of the-
feet, 8 inches. The length of the bench. I know it's hard to read.
I can't tell if it's 4 foot.
Yeah, it
6 or
says
4
4
foot.
So
foot.
right up at the top,
I cannot see that.
So, but we can work through the 2 inches.
Okay.
But so this is a 4 grave lot, so by right, they would be allowed on a 4 grave lot, they're allowed by right 3 feet by 7 inches by 1 foot 1 inch wide at the base. So not significantly bigger, but the standard is 3 feet 7 inches, and they're looking for at max 4 by 8, 4 feet 8 inches. It, depending on what that number is that I'm struggling to read that's
Right.
handwritten.
Right. I thought it was a 3. I apologize. I
No,
thought
that's
it was-
okay. I'm looking at the regs and the
Yep.
This is
handwritten
the
map.
length, the length of the bench? Is
is
That-
4 feet, right? It's right here.
So it's just that one dimension,
So-
just the,
Yes, yes.
So there's the 4 foot, and
Yeah.
this is the back of the bench. Here's the legs, and I can't.
You have the
So-
diagram?
I always
What
wondered
they're-
though, right?
It's just hard to.
Yeah, some of it, I mean, the leg part doesn't matter, I mean, they're not gonna this
Right.
high anyway. So in this is the bottom part where it's 34, or the
3
leg
foot 4
is,
inches,
yeah. But the bench itself is 4,
and they're allowed 3.7? Yeah, so it's,
right?
So she's saying it's a 4 by 3. So it would normally be a 3 feet 7 inches, and they're seeking a 4 foot
oh, okay.
3 inches.
Thank you.
That doesn't seem like much of a difference. I'd make a motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
Okay, no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, passed unanimously.
You Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next, we have a reappointment to the Cultural Council, George Cumming.
I'll make a motion to reappoint George Cumming to the Cultural Council.
Second.
For your term.
3-year term.
And we have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Thank you, George Cumming, for your time and volunteering. Next will be, maybe we should move, well,
Might need a brief recess.
take a little recess. Have we had communication with
He's on,
it's
on
seven
route.
o'clock. So maybe a 15-minute.
Okay.
Well, or do we want to do the executive session?
He's part of.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe do a 10-minute recess, and maybe he'll be here a little early.
All right. So at this time, we're going to take a 10-minute recess and await to address the next item on the agenda when Mr. Morrison arrives. So at this time, we will be out of session. I'd like to resume the Select Board meeting, Middletown and Middleton, this Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. After a brief recess, And we want to welcome Scott Morrison, Superintendent of Schools, and I'll put you right on the spot, Scott. Item number 9, if you can give us your update.
Perfect. Thank you. Nice to see you all. Welcome back. Good start to the school year. As always, start with gratitude, and a lot of gratitude. You heard me talk about partnership, and very grateful for the partnership with Justin and Jackie as it relates to the work we've been doing with Fuller Meadow Driveway. We know that that's been a topic that we have all been navigating. I actually went back and looked at the history. In February of 2020, we had SMMA do a site evaluation and feasibility study, because this has been on our mind for years. It's our one campus with one road in, one road out. Our other 5 campuses, we have multiple ways in and multiple ways out. So back in 20, we did a site evaluation feasibility study. We got that on February 28th, 2020. Something happened a few weeks after that, in March of 2020. So I think that sort of went on the shelf for a little bit while we navigated other endeavors that we had to navigate. We then came up with some temporary solutions over the years, and certainly hoping that they were, hey Jeff, certainly hoping that they were, could be maybe a little bit more permanent than temporary. As we know, we had the golf course, and those temporary solutions start to dissipate as things are built in town for sure. And this has been, between Jackie when she was in that transitory role and Justin coming in, we've had probably 15 Zooms over the course of the past year on this exact topic, town folks, school folks. So it's something that's been on our radar. And when I say that I begin with gratitude, I begin with the gratitude for the team that's in place at Town Hall as we try to think about longer-term solutions for sure. And I think that's been certainly a goal of ours. As I say, we can go all the way back to 2020 when we started ringing that bell around, we need to do some work down there. So again, thank you to both of you guys for your work on that for sure, and the select board as well for their support, and certainly the school committee for their support as well as we navigated this. Just as we look at the year ahead, busy year as always. It was a good start for sure across all 3 towns. We are entering a contract year with our teaching staff, so we will be Unit A and Unit B will be up for renewal. This is the last year of the most recent 3-year contract, so we have started to do some of the work around that, working with our associations and working with our MTA rep and school committee folks and so on and so forth, seeing if there's some work that we can do this fall to kind of get ahead of things before we sort of start in earnest in the January timeframe. From a budget perspective, we are looking at an ELA curriculum right now. We're piloting an ELA curriculum that's due for us to kind of look at that program right now. That's something that, as we navigate that, will most likely come through as a warrant article that we'd be seeking support from school committee and select board and FinCom on. We've done it this way in the past. We never want to sort of just add it to the operating budget because it's a one-time expense. And so we've kind of gone the warrant article route in the past, and we'll have more information on that as we get further into the later fall, early winter, in terms of programs that we're looking at, so on and so forth. And as we just think about all of our departments, we think about our tech department. Cybersecurity is always something front and center on our mind. We hear these things all the time in municipal places and in schools where you have these events that take place. So that's something that's always top of mind for us. From a facilities perspective, just thinking about our continued ICS planning, incident command, a lot of gratitude also for 2 of our chiefs, Sampson and the Coast, and the work that we do around coming up with safety plans and procedures as it relates to the schools. And then operations-wise, we have started to look, and we've been talking with our town administrators across the 3 towns, perhaps for a newer, updated building for central office. And by newer, I don't mean a brand-new building. I mean the Aaron Wood building that we were in and are still in up in Boxford. The whole central office never fit in there to begin with, 8, 9 years ago. And so we've been talking with our different towns around, does anyone have any space that we could maybe, kind of have the school department, central office, all be housed under one roof? Right now, if I call a central office meeting, I've got staff that are in the Topsfield schools, staff that are in the Middleton schools, and staff that are in the Boxford schools, so you really don't have the whole team together. So we're starting to kick the tires on that to see if anything will shake loose. We'll keep you guys updated
How much space do you need?
on that for sure. I don't know the square footage off the top of my head, Costa. I think right now I don't even want to say it. I don't even know what the square footage is. It's a 2-room schoolhouse that we're in over in Boxford. It's right in front of Cole School. It's tight, and as I say, we all don't fit. Facilities is at Cole, curriculum is in Fuller Meadow, technology is in Proctor. So we're spread out We're currently, right now, looking at the old COA building in Boxford. They vacated that, built a new COA building. We're doing a feasibility study there. We had sort of worked that through the Tri-Town School Union Committee and the individual committees to see if that's a spot that we would fit. So more to come on that for sure, but I can get you the square footage numbers. Steve would have that.
You know, I was thinking, 195 North Main, when that, most of the people there move to the campus, there'll be space that, you know, if we can utilize in some way, it would be better than being vacant.
We had talked about this a little bit, and I think our timelines didn't link up by the time we were leaving versus when they actually need it. We're about a year too late.
Exactly.
6 months too late.
Yeah. And then connected to that, from a student services perspective, you know, our preschools continue to expand, which is fabulous. People want to be in the Tri-Town schools for preschools, and then they can roll right into kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, so on and so forth. That's another sort of ancillary reason of trying to get central office staff out of the schools. Like facilities takes up an entire classroom at Cole School. We could expand the preschool programming. That's a tuition-based program for the school departments across the 3 towns. So same thing in the other 2 towns. It would free up space in 2 other buildings as well. So it's 2 things. It's really trying to get central office under one roof and trying to find space for our burgeoning preschool program that we have across the 3 towns. Buses continue to navigate that, you know, in terms of transportation. That is an issue everywhere. You know, we recently sent a letter out to families, and it's been relatively smooth to start the year. We've had the typical beginning of the year bumps that we would normally have at the start of a school year. We called in the NRT executive team the first week just because we had some concerns about, you know, some things that were buses that weren't running and this and that because of driver issues. And the driver issues, this was, you know, I think a real thing that they're certainly dealing with for sure from a workforce perspective. For every 100 interviews that they do for a driver, they get 10 candidates from that 100. And then those 10 have to go through a 6-part process, background record, driving, 60 hours of this, so on and so forth. Of the 10, 5 make it through to the very end of the process. And so when you think of here's Tri-Town and Triton up the street and Nantucket up the street, you know, we share with Masco, so they're in the same boat as we are. But I think of all the way up 95, all the places that use NRT, if they're getting 5 drivers for every 100, if we need 5, like, okay, the other towns, they've got to interview another 100 candidates to get the next 5. So they're working on it for sure. They understand our concerns for sure as well.
So have you had, you know, bus routes not run because of a driver shortage?
We've had a couple. I would say not to the extent that we saw in previous years. I say that, Costa, with the sense of we're on like the, you know, whatever, 15th day of school or 12th day of school or something, so we're not far enough into the school year yet. We've had a few, I would say a few blips along the way, and we're keeping an eye on it for sure.
Mike Harvey at last week's Masco meeting reported that buses were running smoothly.
Yeah, and the difference there, Costa, is that at Masco, you can put Topsfield kids on a Boxford run and Boxford kids on a Middleton run because it's regional. Here, where it's at the elementary level, there's Topsfield buses, Boxford buses,
Correct,
and
but
Middleton buses.
if they're running 25 buses, aren't the total elementaries running 25 buses?
Yep.
If there's a driver for the Masco run, there should be a driver for the elementary run, no matter what town they're in.
Yeah, we've had to double up, like have to go back and do another route. So I again, you've heard me say this before, I'll never speak for Masco because I don't work there, so I don't know what the challenges are that they face. I think it's sometimes a little bit easier at a secondary level where you can put kids on different buses and you can say to a 15-year-old kid, get on this bus, it's going to take you there. A 5-year-old,
Yeah.
they're looking for the face of the bus driver, this is where I sit, please get me home, kind of a thing. So a little bit of a different endeavor for sure. So that's kind of the overall update from the school.
You know, with the failure of the override in May,
Yep.
what have you had to change this school year?
Yeah, specialists, I would say, would be the biggest thing to identify, Costa. We've had to navigate our specialists here in Middleton, and that's what we were trying to fix with the override. The specialists have always been super tight. We have shared specialists. Jeff Bryson's a principal here at Howe Manning. And we have shared specialists between Fuller Meadow and Howe Manning. And for years, it's always been super tight. People kind of coming in on 2 wheels to make sure they can get to that next class. And we've had to have different types of coverage happen to cover classes. And so when we were shooting for the override, what we were trying to do was get a 1.0 FTE for specialists, because that's what was needed at Hal Manning, and a 0.7 FTE, because based on our class sections, that's sort of what we needed at Fuller Meadow. And with that not passing, we've continued to have to kind of Band-Aid it together for the special experience for our kids. So I would say, top of mind, that's the biggest one that jumps out of my head.
And the enrollment, when kids showed up at the beginning of school, is what you expected, or were there surprises?
No, it was where we expected it to be. Kindergarten came in a little bit lower than I think what, we often talk about NESDEC, and I do feel like NESDEC it's a little bit tricky when you're trying to guess K, because that's births and move-ins and so on and so forth. That came in a little bit lower, but it kind of matched where we were in like June and July. It wasn't like all of a sudden in September we were shocked.
Okay.
Yep.
And with the issues at this facility, with, one way in, one way out.
Yes.
Is there, until a permanent solution is able to be implemented, is there any thought in staggering the dismissal time so the kids that ride on the bus get dismissed first, they ride the bus, and then parents can come and pick up and separate the truck, the buses and the parent cars?
Yeah, we have shared buses between the schools that runs between the two schools, so if you were to stagger, I don't think that would
No,
necessarily-
I'm saying the dismissal is the same, but the kids get on the bus first, and the buses leave before parents are allowed on the campus to pick up their kids.
Yeah, it all happens, and Jeff, if it's okay to have Jeff jump in, because he lives in the school, it all happens simultaneously right now.
Well,
for the
and
most part,
that's
right?
part of the issue, that you get buses and cars trying to access it.
Yeah,
I'm saying, if you have the ability to, with multiple entrances, et cetera, but until that permanent solution comes up,
yep.
wouldn't it flow more efficiently if you separated the buses and the parent pickups?
I would say to you, certainly something we'll look at as we continue to try to solve this problem. We have another meeting, I think, coming up with the town side and with our operations people and our facilities people as well, so we can add that to the list of things to look at for sure, Costa. When I think about our other schools, and your point is well taken, in the other schools where we have multiple entrances and exits, yes, we can do parent pickup and buses all at the same time. But, sitting here, I'd want to give that a little bit more thought and run it by the team, just for sure, and we'll get that answer for you.
Okay. But I agree, like at Hal Manning, the parents go by
Back.
the back, the
Yep.
buses at the front, it, slows down the conflicts. Here, buses are trying to come in, parent cars are trying to come in, and exit, and it's a challenge that's different than the other schools.
100%. And just one more facilities-related item now that you bring that up, and we thank the select board for their support on this and the school committee as well. MSBA, remember we talked about that one section of roof at Fuller Meadow? So they came out, we did a site visit late August, I think it was, and they came out to kind of survey the scene, get a look at things. Our understanding is that there's $150 million in the ARP program bucket at the state level, 71 applicants to the ARP program. The thickness of those applications, I don't know. Ours is pretty thin, but when I say thin, I only mean it's a section of roof at Fuller Meadow. There might be a school department that issued a $50 million project to do a whole school roof, right? So we will find out late October where we land. They're meeting as a board. Boxford also, we also submitted one in Boxford. There was similar, Cole School, small section of roof, didn't meet it. So we'll have a better sense of things, but I would say to you that just from my perspective, Middleton is very poised. Justin sent, there was an email that had to go from the TA to MSBA, and we appreciate that we have already money set aside for design and development, and it feels to me like it's very shovel-ready here in Middleton for sure. So I have my fingers crossed, and it would be great if we could knock that out, because then we'll be out of the roofing business for, I think, decades at the two schools.
Well, if MSBA funds the proposal, when do we have to come up with the rest of the money?
I believe they give us 60 days, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
So if And in late October, you'll find out if you're moving to the next step or if you get approved.
Approved.
So if we're approved in late October, by December, we have to approve the rest of the money.
It depends, yes, but it depends how much it is. So we already have the 300,000 from the appropriation in May. The hope and frankly, I think understanding based on what we pulled out of them is that it's not gonna be too far beyond that, if it even is beyond that. And so
Okay.
we've had early conversations that you may be able to find, I don't wanna commit you to anything, but depending how much it is, pockets that you can pull from
And that's for design.
for that purpose, for design.
That's
Yeah.
for design. And then we would have to see what the cost is for.
For May.
And that would be back around to May.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I said, like, the town, I think, is well poised. The fact that the community and the select board and everybody working together, that 300,000 is a great start.
Okay, so I was thinking that, if we move forward, we have to come up with a lot more money to cover the construction. But
Oh, no, yeah,
at this
no,
stage, just to cover the design between their money and our money.
Correct, all the way through bidding. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Very good.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I just respect the difficulty, back to the parking thing, is how do you communicate to the parents that pick up that have the time to, be here early?
Yeah. but-
When they don't have even the staging location we had, wasn't exactly, but anyway, I just wanted to,
Yeah, for sure.
understand, I respect the difficulty for this address.
Yes, thank you.
Not that it's not at how many, but it is
We have a little
a
more,
little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit better here, but here you.
we're not off-site parking at how many, right? Right.
Scott, I do have a question. Circling back to a Zoom meeting I had with Steve, he was gonna look into a letter to be sent out to the parents to find out why there are so many being picked up now. I can tell you what I hear, the reason the parents are picking these children up is because these bus rides are so long.
That's correct.
They're sitting on a bus for 45 minutes, they have a dentist appointment, they have a doctor. Just the other thing, they can't be late to get to those other options.
Correct.
So have we entertained sending out that letter?
We haven't yet, and I'll tell you why, Deb. 2 reasons. One of which, we always want the bus routes to settle. We always try to say, you need the month of September for everything to settle in. Because
I agree.
we introduce 5-year-olds into the system in the second week of school, and everything that might have been going kind of smooth in the first week, it tends to slow down because it's just, again, a different cat, so to speak, in terms of a 5-year-old getting on a bus versus a 15-year-old getting on the bus.
Absolutely.
And then my other, I would say, thing that I want to think about with the survey, and Steve did mention to me that you guys had an opportunity to connect, and I said to him, let's get through September and settle, is if we don't have a solution, to put out a survey, I don't want to mislead people, like, please let us know why you're not taking the bus, and we'll have the data, but we don't really have a solution for anybody yet, right? And so I don't want to give anyone sort of a false hope that, like, oh, they're doing a survey to find out why people aren't taking a bus. They must be close to some sort of a solution. It is exactly what you hear. My guess is if we were to do a survey like that, we would hear exactly what you're hearing, and I think Jeff could probably corroborate this as well. It's a long bus ride. It's a very, very long bus ride. We had to reduce a bus last year, and that was a little bit of a budget savings, and the bus wasn't really running anyway because we didn't have a driver for it. And so I think what we would hear from the general community is exactly what you just said, Deb, in the sense of, yeah, I can't be 45 minutes on a bus. I have to be at dance or dentist or
Right.
whatever the case may be. So I think you're spot on with that, for sure. So that's my, we'll revisit it end of September, but my initial sort of thought when Steve was talking to me about it was I don't want to give people false hope that they're surveying us to get information to come up with a solution. We don't have a solution right now. It kind of is what it is in the respect to, we're sort of at the mercy of 100 candidates, 5 people. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it does.
Okay, thank you.
NRT just, in my opinion, I think needs to be held a little more accountable. We have a contract.
Yep.
And that contract states X number of buses. how they manage their people, whether they're interviewing 100 and only receiving 5.
Yeah.
Well, I can't mismanage my company and still be rewarded.
We
You
do
know
hold them
what I
accountable
mean?
from a paying of the bills perspective. Like, if we're supposed to run 7 and we run 5, then we're paying for 5. We're not paying for
Steve
7.
did tell me that.
Yeah. So we're making sure that we're doing that for sure.
And unfortunately, there isn't another company that you
Well,
can
because,
provide the
exactly,
service.
they've gobbled them all up.
And even if there was, Costa, to your point, we're not very attractive, right? This weird sort of 3-town with a regional, it's not a very attractive looking model, so to speak, for a bus company to want to come in and bid on, 3 individual towns at the elementary that shares with a regional and all the funkiness that, kind of can come along with that.
I would think it could be an advantage because, it creates more work for the driver instead of, doing an hour,
Sure. See you at the end of the day.
an hour at the beginning, an
Yep.
hour at the end. It's
Yep.
2 hours, 2.5 hours at the
Sure.
beginning, 2.5 hours at the end. So you're getting paid for 5 hours
Sure.
instead of 2.
Yep.
Right.
It's valid. And I think in bigger districts, you've got, more sports and, a field trip, whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's a valid point for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for me? No?
Thanks, Rick.
Folks, anybody? No?
I do not.
Okay. That's good.
Updates and announcements in executive session.
Okay. Let's see here. All right, so do we have any updates and announcements at all?
I do not.
I
Do
don't.
not. Okay, then I'll take a motion to adjourn, and we will go into executive
Oh, you have to
session.
go, motion to go into executive
Motion to
session.
go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second?
Will you be returning to open session?
No, we will not be returning.
Thank you.
Could you read the reasoning for it as well?
Yeah, we-
Strategy
I'll
session.
take a motion to go into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares, MIA insurance claim. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second. And, okay, if you would, Deb, would you call
Sure.
roll call?
Costa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also.
All right. So motion passes to go into executive session, and we will not be coming back to open session.